with a gasoline truck.
First thing you think, no, it didn't happen.
Did a device originally designed to increase safety help spark the flames?
While the risk of an accident may be low, the consequences are great.
Are these gas lines really dangerous, or are critics just fanning the flames? Steve Daniels on a fiery controversy. From our studios in New York, here is Stone Phillips.
Good evening. You see them on the road all the time. Those huge tanker trucks hauling gasoline or other hazardous materials. If you're like most drivers, you give them plenty of room. And recognizing the potential danger, companies take plenty of precautions when they transport those substances. But the family you're about to meet says there's one hazard you may not know about, and it cost their daughter her life when she hit a tanker truck. And the irony is, they say the gasoline that fueled the deadly fire spilled from a device originally designed to increase safety. Here's Steve Daniels.
There is something special about her. People loved her. She touched a lot of lives. It's just something you don't ever think of.
Yuta Harrell was a young woman with big plans.
She was dreaming about having a family, having her own house.
But her dreams vanished in July of 1998 when she ran a red light and collided with a gasoline tanker.
First thing you think, no, it didn't happen.
Ermi and Ellis Harrell stand at the makeshift roadside memorial where their 32-year-old daughter was killed. The tanker Yuta hit was carrying 9,000 gallons of gasoline, but remarkably, most of that fuel didn't burn. In fact, most of the gasoline in the main tank remained inside. So what caused this deadly fire? Yuta Harrell hit the tanker broadside, colliding with loading lines like these that were filled with fuel. That gas spilled onto her engine, which sent the car up in flames. Ironically, the lines were originally supposed to be a safety device designed to break away on impact and prevent gas in the tank from escaping. They were not supposed to transport gas. And Yuta Harrell's parents believe had those lines been empty, their daughter might have survived. Bob Chipkovich is with the National Transportation Safety Board. He's been examining the issue of wet lines very closely.
When you're talking about gasoline, it's highly flammable and volatile as that is, pouring over the hood of an automobile, a hot engine, certainly a very, very dangerous condition.
In May of 1998, Chipkovich and the NTSB submitted this extensive report to the Department of Transportation, the government agency with the ultimate authority to rule on wet lines. In its report, the NTSB strongly recommends the DOT prohibit carrying hazardous materials in wet lines.
We don't think that gasoline or any hazardous material should be transported in those wet lines.
But others disagree with the NTSB's recommendation.
I believe that the record over the years has proven that the gasoline tank trucks have an exemplary safety record.
For almost 30 years, Cliff Harvison has been the president of a trade association called National Tank Truck Carriers Incorporated. Is it safe to carry gasoline in those wet lines?
I believe it is not only safe, but it is also one of the provisions that has been mandated by Environmental Protection Agency regulations.
In fact, the EPA says it never directly addressed the issue of wet lines, but the agency did change the rules about how fuel can be loaded into tankers. Tankers used to be loaded from the top and unloaded from the bottom, but in 1977, the EPA banned top loading because it was concerned that vapors were escaping into the air. Then truckers began loading their tankers through these bottom lines, sometimes leaving excess gasoline inside the pipes, making them wet lines. Couldn't the concerns about safety be alleviated entirely if those wet lines were simply drained before the truck went out on the road? Doesn't it seem like a simple solution?
No, it does not. What would you propose? That we simply drive the truck down 25 feet, open up the valves, and spill it out onto the ground? I don't think you want that.
Why not drive it 25 feet and put it into another tank?
What other tank is going to be there?
Harvison insists there's no place to dump the excess gasoline. And he says redesigning trucks presents a new set of problems that could be costly to consumers.
How much is the American public willing to pay in additional charges for their gasoline? How much inconvenience are they willing to put up when thousands of vehicles may not be available for gasoline service on a given day?
Harbison says he'd be open to ideas that could resolve the problem. And after our interview with him, we did find one company that's recently come up with a possible solution. Sunoco decided to install a wet line purging system on some of its tankers operating in the Midwest and Northeast.
It's an insurance policy. We work very hard to make sure that the benefit of this equipment will never be realized. But in the event of a collision, we're very confident that this was the right thing to do.
Cliff Harbison has briefly reviewed the new system, but feels it's too early to say whether this is a viable option. He also points out that accidents involving wet lines are very rare.
With 120 million loads over a 10-year period, probably less than a dozen of these type of accidents have been reported. That is an extraordinary safety record under any degree of circumstance.
While the risk of an accident may be low, the consequences are great.
The Department of Transportation declined our request for an interview, but in a written response, the agency said it's conducting an assessment of technologies that could minimize or eliminate risks associated with wet lines. But the Harrells, still mourning the loss of their daughter, want the government to prohibit wet lines on all gas tankers because they believe every day on virtually every major roadway in America, tankers with wet lines pose a serious danger to other drivers.
We can't bring Utah back, but we can do something. All of us can do something to prevent it from happening again.
By the way, Sunoco, the company that's installing the new purging system on some of its tankers, says none of those costs will be passed on to consumers.